skeletal structure is everything. Now a couple little husbandry points here. Shorter body means fewer calories used for warmth. Less feathers, I'll give you the blank and then I'll explain. Less feathers means more calories for warmth. So, I don't have a picture of a Wyandotte. If I was doing PowerPoint, I'd show you. But a Wyandotte, do you remember where I said it was developed? Upstate New York. What's it like in New York? It's cold. Okay? So a Wyandotte is short-bodied this way and deep this way. Okay? So, now, when a chicken eats feed, okay, it's eating feed kind of sort of for two reasons. To stay alive, to stay warm, okay, to part of that kind of slash stay alive, stay warm, slash production. Alright? So a Wyandotte that's short body and has depth of body, that has wide feathers, is going to be warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. If it has a narrow feather, this Wyandotte that you get from these hatcheries, when it has a narrow feather, it has to eat more feed in the winter to stay warm. What that can tell you is you're eating more feed, you're producing less eggs and less meat, and so when we're breeding birds, and when you look at the ocelotts that Jennifer and Patricia have versus an ocelot from a hatchery, the width of feather is drastically different. I would look over the shoulders of these old-timers, poultry judges. You know, they're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I'm in my teens and 20s, and they're like, look at the width of feather and the wing and the width of feather, and I'm like, width of feather, width of feather. Finally, when I started paying attention to production several years ago, I was like, width of feather, duh. It's not just pretty exhibition, put them in the county or the state fair. Width of feather is a huge part of production. So the wider the feather on that bird is going to tell you what kind of production that bird, what kind of rate of growth that bird is going to have. Okay? Less feathers means more calories are being used to keep that bird warm. Okay? Does that make sense? You're connecting the dots. Good. I got one head nod. All right. So let me just talk about body. First and foremost, number one when we talk about meat production is the head of a chicken. The head of a chicken will tell you everything. I put skull width. That's the blank there. A wide skull on a chicken is a strong indicator of good growth potential. If the skull is narrow, you might want to underline this, the rest of the bird will be narrow. So whether I'm working with Sharon with her Delawares, or Pat with her Ocelots, or Rocco with his Buckeyes, we're talking those are three dual-purpose breeds. Alright? I want a wide skull on that bird. Because if you have a wide skull, you'll have a wide body. Almost guaranteed. Narrow skull, narrow body. Okay? I'll just kind of read the, fill in the blanks there. If the skull's narrow, body capacity, that's your blank, is controlled by the head. Okay? A narrow head means a smaller brain. You know anybody has a smaller brain? They don't learn how to roost as quickly. They don't learn how to eat as quickly. They don't catch on. All right? And you say, all turkeys have small brains. I don't agree with that. People say turkeys are stupid to go out and look up in the air and go and drown and all that stuff. I don't know where you come up with that. Are your turkeys smart? They're smart. All right?
When the hunters arrive, like within 20
That's right.
hours.
Yeah. If you think turkeys are stupid, try and hunt them in spring holiday. The head houses the nervous system. Okay? So when I mentor you as a breeder of chickens, ducks, geese, or turkeys, or any of those, you will learn significantly about heads. The head of the bird. If I put one of Bub's Barred Plymouth Rock heads next to a head that comes from a large hatchery, you will see night and day difference. Night and day. And we're going to get some birds out, and I'll try and get Rocco to find some wide heads and some not so wide heads if we can do that. Okay? Make sense? Question. Okay, number 2 is what we call the heart girth. All right? I'm really bad at drawing chickens, but I'm going to try and draw. Okay, if I got a wing here, this is the wing. The heart girth, we begin to put our hands right down between the wings, and we feel the width of the back all the way back. All right, this is the tail, this is the head up here. Okay? This is heart girth, and we'll feel some heart girth when we get some birds out and handle them. Heart girth is an indicator that there's enough space for the internal organs to be of good size, maximizing the bird's growth and development. It's really pretty self-explanatory. Okay? Number 3, flat back. The wider this is, the flatter the back. Okay? Want a flat back. Any idea why a flat back would be important? Gives you more room. But another thing, I'll expand on that. You take this bird, lay it on its back. What's pointed up? What's on the other side? The breast. Okay, so wider the back, wider the breast. When you process that bird, you lay that out. Okay? I just got an email from one of our Chanticleer breeders in Central Coast, California. She said, Jim, I gave one of my partridge Chanticleers to a chef and she did not like it. She said it was scrawny and she just she didn't like it. All right? And by the way, we'll talk about marketing later today, or to wrap up today. Those chefs will be all over the place and go, I'm used to 37-day-old Cornish cross, you know, but there are also chefs who say, I believe in the heritage bird, you got to cook it, you know, and so. But what I'm getting at with this is presentation. You got to get those Delawares back to where they once were. Get those Buckeyes and those Part Chanticleers so that good flat backs. We turn that bird over and we got width of body or width of breast so that your consumer and the chefs go, oh wow, that's pretty. That's a pretty nice bird. Now I'll also tell you the same exact genetics of that partridge Chanticleer. I had a farmer just on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina came to a workshop he did over east of Charlotte. And he said, I'm buying all these heritage chickens from big hatcheries and no one likes them. You cannot find me a carcass that's presentable. He said, I'm here to find out if I can really produce a carcass that my customers who come to my local farm will buy a heritage chicken. And I said to Carson, the little farmer, Carson's 12, 13, I said, Carson, go get one of your partridge Chanticleers out of the fridge. They really dialed in on the feeding program. And he came out, and Carson knew what it was all about. And he found a beautiful carcass of partridge Chanticleer. And I don't remember this farmer's name, a sharp guy. He goes, that looks like a Cornish cross. That's a partridge Chanticleer. You know, there's the and again, but where I'm going with that is we gotta select those birds and get back to producing that bird. So back flatness and length. A flat back makes it more attractive carcass. Good length and width contribute to the quality of the dressed bird. Flat backs are a good indicator of good bone development in a bird. Generous length and width of back are indicators of longevity, vigor, provide ample capacity for satisfactory egg production. Number 4, body depth. As with heart girth, this aspect of the bird's body indicates whether it is ample or restricted space for the internal organs. Okay? A body type is thickness between the back and the keel. Okay? Okay. Here's the part Plymouth Rock. Okay? Now, basically, we're talking about body depth. We're talking about right here. From the top of the back to the bottom of the keel bone or the breastbone. Now, I want you to see if I took and just looked at the back half of the bird. That's where all the egg production organs are. Okay? So, very, very important, we talk about body depth and talk about egg production, is how much space is in the back half of the bird. You take her leg, go up from her legs, straight up, the back half. If you got a bird that's scrawny and doesn't measure much, and you'll understand it more when you handle a bird. We'll try and find a bird that doesn't have real good depth and one that does. Now, it might be a little bit hard because all we have is his breeders here right now, birds that we selected. So body depth. Number 5, breast and keel. The keel is examined for straightness and length and for good carcass appearance. The amount of meat on the breast will ultimately drive the bird's appeal to the consumer. Okay, now on the bottom there's some very key other points.
What was number 5?
Breast and keel. K-E-E-L. This is how you keel. That's the breastbone or the keel bone. Okay? Couple other points for you to think about. Okay? Appetite equals rate of growth. What in the world do I mean by that? The more they eat, the more they're going to grow. So when you see birds, okay, when I say, Jennifer, we're selecting rate of growth, keep an eye on it. She's like, as you spend time with your birds, okay, she says, male number 46, I pick him up and I'm like, this is a big bird. She goes, he's always at the feeder. That's a male you want to use for breeding. I mean, one of the things that we want to look at. A bird that's, you know, scrawny and kind of not doing much, slow moving around, it's called vigor. We'll talk about that in breeding. No vigor, we don't want that bird to breed. So birds that eat a lot, that's why the Cornish cross is such a wonder, a genetic wonder. It's like, man, they did that right. And they eat and eat and eat and grow and grow and grow. Okay? Protein equals rate of growth. That's why back in the feeding section I tell you at the minimum percentage, protein is what makes your birds grow. So you want to keep it, you know, I'll tell you, there's an organic feed that's advertised in even magazines out here called Modesto Milling. It's in California, and they're shipping organic feed all over. Chris, who's the lead sales guy for this organic feed, I said, Chris, will your feed put the weight on our birds in 16 weeks? He's like, don't use our feed. All we're marketing our organic feed for is going after the farmer, the backyard farmer who wants to have their organic eggs. They don't care about breeding, they don't care about rate of growth, it's not important. And what I mean by that is if you're going to try and develop a business and you're going to try and grow these birds with good meat on them, pay attention to protein. All right? White feathers, I already explained that. Okay? And size. All right? Yesterday when I'm with Pat and her pen and black Australorps, she's like, she's been watching them. Trust me, she watches those black Australorps a lot. Okay? She's dialed in on who's big, who's not. So she's pointing them out. That's a male I noticed was really big, and we pick him up. Okay? And a lot of times we weigh the birds. Okay? If you want to just make a note, okay, the best time to weigh a heritage bird, we weigh them at 8 weeks and we weigh them at 16 weeks, ideally. And I'm in the process of trying to train our farmers more to do that. For an example, Sharon has Delawares. Okay? Let's just say at 8 weeks, she has 4 males, and one is 5'1", one is 5'3", one is 5'4", they're not going to be this big, but one is 5'6". Okay? Alright? At 16 weeks, okay, this drastically changes. Alright? It tells us that from 8 to 16 weeks, that's where that rate of growth has changed. Alright? Or vice versa, these could be drastically, they might vary anywhere from 3 pounds to 6 pounds. Okay? First of all, we want to do everything we can to get away from that. Because we need uniform. Alright? And so that's, weighing the birds is a very, very important part of size. So back to that is when Pat goes, Tim, I've been watching that male, that's a big one, let's pick him up. We weigh him, we're also looking at his comb, we're looking at his skull, we're looking at his width of back, etc., etc. Okay? Question? Yeah,